Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast, the podcast dedicated to simplifying the commercial real estate industry for the masses. Each week, we sit down with industry experts to dissect the many facets of commercial real estate and extract valuable lessons you can apply to your business. Whether you're a new or seasoned business owner or investor, the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast will be your go-to resource for all your commercial real estate needs. Now, here are your hosts, Raphael Collazo and Jeff Walston.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast. I'm your host, Raphael Collazo, here with my co-host, Jeff Walston. How's it going, my friend?
Going great. As I always say, business is good and everything on the personal end is going great. Getting ready for all the barbecues and 4th of July coming up. So a lot of yard work, but yeah, it's doing great. But what about you, my friend? How's it going over there?
Going well. Yeah, we're actually planning to schedule or try to get a barbecue event going here at our house too. So I'm sure you'll be getting an invite, and along with other people that we know here in Louisville. So, we're just trying to take advantage of the nice weather while we have it. We still got a few more months left, but I'm big into trying to get outside and do stuff when it is nice out, and we have, longer days now. So the other day it was like 9:30 p.m. when it went dark. So it was really nice to take advantage of that. So, but speaking of just a phenomenal time, and this is actually our first repeat guest, and we wanted to have him back on the podcast because he provided so many insights to start off with, and he also has some other initiatives that he's very passionate about, and we're really excited to host Michael Beckerman, who is the CEO of CREtech and also CREtech Climate, which is the initiative that is really focused on helping bring awareness and try to promote technology that helps to limit the impact that carbon emissions has on the built environment. So in today's episode, we kind of learned a little bit more about his backstory. If you guys listen to the first podcast episode, you may have heard about how he got into the commercial real estate industry, but we kind of touched on that a little bit as well. We touched on his inspiration for starting CREtech Climate and why he's so passionate about this initiative, and it's going to be an initiative that he pursues for the rest of his career. It is an industry that actually has more carbon emissions being produced than the auto industry, which is a tidbit that he shared on our first podcast, and I was absolutely shocked by. So he provides reasoning as to why he decided to pursue that initiative. We also talked about some of the areas that we can focus on as far as low-hanging fruit is concerned in order to help impact or reduce the impact of the built environment as far as carbon emissions are concerned. We also touched on, what technologies he sees coming down the pike that he was really excited about, and then also where he sees the industry going over the next 5 to 10 years, and how CREtech Climate is going to be able to be, I guess, a leader within that, push and an initiative over the next 5 to 10 years. So I found the discussion extremely helpful. Obviously Michael is just an awesome individual, and I'm always glad to reconnect with Michael, and they've got a few conferences coming up, and hopefully we'll be able to be in attendance with them as well, because I went to the one in 2021. Absolutely phenomenal. If you guys haven't had a chance to attend the conference, I would highly recommend you do so. Jeff, do you have any insights you'd like to share?
Michael's an incredible guy, especially when it comes to his passion on this subject, the technology and the CRE climate and the built environment. So I cannot wait for you guys to listen to everything that you say. I know that you will hear just the passion in his voice and how much he wants to just help educate people in this sector. So I'm really, really excited for you guys to take a listen.
Definitely. No, I couldn't agree more. And also, as we always do in every single episode, we just want to thank you guys so much for your guys' support.
We do appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. And we just eclipsed over 10,000 downloads, and we continue to see growth in our podcast over and over and over again. It's always just super inspirational. And we're always thankful for you guys engaging with the podcast on a regular basis. If you guys don't mind, we would greatly appreciate if you could go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. Because we've seen the increase in 5-star reviews being left, we've actually seen an increase in our downloads as well. So, every single 5-star review makes a huge difference for us. So if you guys don't take a second to be able to go down to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review, that'd be great. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about everything related to commercial real estate. So thanks again. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this episode. Well, good morning, Michael. Great to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Again, thanks for having me on. I'm always surprised when somebody asks me to go back on their show. So I'm appreciative of the opportunity to join you again on your wonderful show. I love what you guys are doing. I'm a big fan. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And you're definitely coming back on and sharing your knowledge. So
I don't know about knowledge, but definitely my passion.
Yeah, passion, insights, and wisdom is what we're gonna get. Absolutely. Yeah. And for those of you guys who are listening for the first time, actually Michael was one of our earlier guests. I believe he was in the first 20 guests we had on, and he provided so much value related to commercial real estate technology. And today we wanted to invite him back because he also is a CEO of CRE Climate, which is a focal, where their focal point is really trying to get people understanding about how the built environment affects climate and hopefully make a change going forward so that, we're able to live in an environment that get to enjoy our planet for many years to come. And so we're really excited to have you on to talk a little bit about your backstory and then ultimately, your efforts on that front. So,
well, again, thanks guys, both of you, for giving me the opportunity to talk about climate tech and the built world. It's become my life's mission to raise awareness and to drive measurable change in this crisis. And so any opportunity that I can get where I can talk to people I respect, like the two of you, is just, it's really wonderful. So thank you.
Oh, of course. No, thanks again, Michael, for stopping by. It's always an honor to talk to you. So one thing I wanted to do, there are people who have listened to your episode originally, but then there's some that may have not. So if you can kind of give a little bit of your backstory, I think that'd be great.
Sure. So I've been in commercial real estate my whole career, very long career, about 35 years. The first, say, 25 was all focused on the public relations, media, marketing side of the industry. But, we represented my agency that I built big real estate companies throughout the US. The last 10 years or so, I've been focusing on the technology sector, quote unquote, prop tech. It's a term I don't love because I think it's very narrow in its definition, but it's the only one. I haven't come up with a better one. So I typically will talk about, commercial real estate technology and innovation. So I've been focused on building this ecosystem, which is, startups, mostly emerging young startups that are focused on brokerages, owners, landlords, investors, asset managers, pension funds, property managers, construction companies, and helping them discover and then hopefully invest and adopt technology solutions. So it's a massive industry now, about $30 billion a year being invested in prop tech. There's about 10,000 startups globally. Our audience at CREtech has grown to well over 100,000. And that's venture, that's startups, and that's sort of the end users, the customers in the industry. And, our primary business is conferences, events. We do one in London and one in New York. We do some consulting work as well for real estate companies, but it's really about the conferences and upcoming in the fall, October 12th and 13th. Sorry for the little infomercial in New York. That's our big flagship. And then, I'll just take the handoff and run with it. We're doing a virtual conference in 2020. I don't know if you heard this terrible thing called COVID, but those of us, I don't mean to make light of it, that we're in the physical event business on the virtual path for a time being. Now we're back in person. During that time, was looking around for some content ideas, connected with a couple peers that I have great respect for. And that's when it sort of just hit me like a sledgehammer, that the built world's the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions, more than any other industry. So I set out to make this my life's mission and my company's focus on CREtech Climate to help drive awareness, investment in climate technologies that'll help to decarbonize the built world. So that's something I'm very, very focused on, as you know.
Absolutely. And I will say that I had a chance to attend CREtech last year, actually. I was there for the conference, and it is an awesome event. I mean, I was able to see so many different types of companies that are coming down the pike with really cool and revolutionary technologies. And I even met some companies that were addressing some of the, concerns that you were referencing with the built world as well. So, I mean, it's just amazing to see the effort and resources that people are putting behind these initiatives. And, kudos to you to being that watering hole, I guess, for those types of ideas. So.
The watering hole. I like that, Raphael. That's how I'm gonna tell the team. That's how we should rebrand ourselves. CREtech, the watering hole of all things real estate technology and innovation. That's good. I'm gonna use that.
There you
go. Michael, actually, because on the last one, I wanted to jump back a little bit, and when I say a little bit, 35 years ago, to ask the question of when that time came around, what actually got you interested in commercial real estate? Was it a family? Was it schooling? Or can you just kind of tell that little snippet of a story?
Oh my gosh, you're making me go way back. Way back, Jeff.
Yeah.
I think, again, who cares about my journey? But,
you got to remember, Michael, that a lot of our listeners are just getting into commercial real estate. So if you can kind of, tell your story, maybe it'll be relatable. And
thanks, Jeff. I think for me, it's always been about just seeing the opportunities in front of you and just not overthinking them and just pursuing them, and then discovering, whatever that opportunity presented itself. So I was a failed college student. I think I got a year in, and I was looking to pay the bills, and so I was doing a lot of odd jobs. I was a delivery for a pharmacy. I was answering somebody's company's phones. I was, I had so many odd jobs. And then I just started to work in marketing. I just, created a marketing agency, and my parents were in the graphic design business. So I kind of knew it a little bit. And then I just stumbled upon commercial real estate in that journey. It's like, oh, it's a really cool, big, interesting industry. I didn't know anything about media or PR, but I just was fascinated by this industry, how it moved, how markets moved, how it changed, how it evolved. And I've just been a student of real estate my whole sort of career. So it wasn't by strategy. It was really just by happenstance. I just met somebody. And I was like, what do you do? Oh, I work in commercial real estate. What is that? What do you do in commercial real estate? I'm a developer. I'm a broker. I've just always been fascinated by the industry, because I don't know many industries on earth that touch everybody, right? Like, all of us are in the built environment. Like, we don't, live in a mountain in a cave. So it touches all of our lives. And I've just always been so fascinated by the industry.
Awesome. Yeah. And it kind of lends itself to a lot of the people that we've interviewed over the course of our having this podcast, is that a lot of people they just kind of fall into it. It's not an industry it's not well marketed, I don't think. It's not like a lot of these other industries where it's like, oh, it's coming to this profession. Whereas here I feel like in commercial real estate, it is much more of a, kind of opaque industry that a lot of people don't necessarily, understand or know much about until they actually just get into it by happenstance, or maybe having a conversation with someone that just so happens to be in the industry. And so, it's always kind of nice to hear the backstories for people, because people who are listening to this podcast could potentially relate, and that can maybe inspire them to pursue different avenues. So.
And the thing that I love about the industry, I mean, I love the outsized personalities, many of which you've had on the show. Mm-hmm. I love the entrepreneurial nature of it. I love the creativity, where every day these people that work in this industry are working on with a blank canvas, which I'm fascinated by in life. So there's a vision of something and they go create it. Like, it's such a creative, inspiring industry. However, the other part that inspires me, it's the least innovative. It's the biggest industry on earth measured by global GDP. It spends the least on R&D. I think most industries are about 3 to 5%. They reinvest in R&D. Real estate's like under 1%. So for me, that's the last 10 years is, oh my goodness, think about the improvements that we can make in operations, in marketing, in leasing, in development, in design, in architecture, in disposition, in property management by getting them to embrace innovation. I mean, we're going to build this new industry, and in the biggest industry on earth. So for me, it's always just been very, very exciting to be on the innovation side. And, to anybody that is thinking about a career, I mean, my goodness, I've never seen, I mean, I know a lot of people are trying to hire. I've never seen so many open jobs in tech, in commercial real estate than I've seen today.
Absolutely.
Ever.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So it definitely does have opportunities for those who are willing to pursue it. But one thing I wanted to ask you, and obviously this is kind of going to be the focal point of the podcast, because I definitely want you to be able to highlight this, is, you alluded back to, 2021, or if I'm not mistaken, where you had that kind of revelation where, now you wanted to try to focus a lot more of your attention on the climate side, and, that kind of created CREtech Climate. And so if I could elaborate a little bit on what made you decide to do that. Maybe was there like a statistic that you heard, or maybe a discussion that you had? Could you kind of elaborate a little bit on that inspiration?
Thanks, Raphael. Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like I'm getting too personal, but who cares about what my life or my journey? But for me, I was always somebody that found solace and spirituality in nature. Right. So I'm a hiker. I walk everywhere I can get. If I find a park, any city I'm in, that's me. I'm that guy. Fly fisherman. Like, I just love the outdoors. So I've got that as my life. And then my professional life, it's always been in the built environment, big cities, New York, which I live outside of. And to find out that industry is the leading cause of greenhouse gas emissions, that was like this aha for me. Was okay, all those roads you've traveled down converge now. That's why you spend all this time in the commercial real estate industry. That's why you spend all the time in the tech sector. Now you have an opportunity, me speaking of myself in the third party, to change the world by changing this industry and making a huge impact. So I say to people who will listen, the climate crisis is the single biggest threat ever to face the real estate industry, but it's also the single biggest opportunity. So that's my mission. I'm on a mission to decarbonize the built world. And I'm doing everything I can to just help raise the level of awareness. So the 40% of all carbon emissions, 40%, it's what my friend Travis Connors at Building Ventures, a great VC we should have on, says it's the 40% problem. 40% of greenhouse gas emissions, 40% of energy consumed, 40% of raw materials used, 40% of all landfill materials. Of the 40%, 29 is on the operating carbon. On the operating emissions. So the buildings that we live and work in. And then the other 11 or 12% is embodied, which is on the construction side. All time to date, the real estate industry, we did a survey and a research project with ULI and Fifth Wall, the great venture firm. And we were able to track about $100 million has been spent by the real estate industry on climate technology solutions. To decarbonize the built world is $100 trillion problem. That's what it's going to cost. Most of that money's got to go into existing building stock. So when you think about the internet is $1 trillion industry, all time. Everything we see, the Facebooks, the Amazons, all that, that's maybe a couple trillion, maybe. Now you say 100 trillion just for our industry. I mean, let that sink in. So that's the mission, and it's the biggest one I've ever, and most people will ever confront.
Absolutely. And when we first had the discussion on the first podcast, you had referenced that, and I kind of did a little bit of research on my own, because at first I was kind of shocked by it, because you always hear, but the thing is, you always hear on the news and different sites.
Come on, Michael, that can't be true. I want to go verify it.
Trust but verify, as they say, right? No, No, but when you think about it, like all the different articles and all the news that I've consumed in the past has always been focused on, the auto industry, which makes sense because
Right.
that is something that, is easy to see. It's very, linear, and that, you can see that the carbon emissions are coming out of the tailpipes and everything else. Whereas with the built environment, it's a bigger impact, quote unquote, but it's one of those things that people just don't talk about. And so I think what you're doing,
Yeah.
obviously, with your mission is so impactful
Trying.
because more people just need to understand this, because I'm in the commercial real estate industry and I had zero idea.
Yeah, Raphael,
was
like
that.
most of us, like me, like I'm,
Yeah.
probably 3 times your age. Like
Yeah.
I didn't even know. And I'm someone who consumes content like passionately every day. I'm listening to you guys. I'm reading everything I can get my hands on, and I didn't know. So it's like this giant problem that's hiding in plain sight. It's right there. Now, then the question becomes, okay, do we have the tools to do this? And the good news is yes. So a lot of the solutions are there. So we don't have to wait for Elon to come solve our problem. Like they're there, right? It's just a question of now we've got to communicate to the industry about the problem, because most don't know. And then also what the risk is for not investing in these solutions. So that's the other part of the narrative and the story as well. Okay, but maybe one day I'll think about it. No, you don't have much time if you're an owner. And two, well, I'm not here to make the moral argument. So what I say to people is, yeah, you're going to have to invest in these technologies because government, your lender, your insurance, the tenant, they're all going to demand it. But two is, it's the single greatest wealth creation opportunity in history. So let's just talk about ROI and making money, right? So that's the other part of the message.
Definitely.
Yeah. So on your mission there, I've listened to all that, and you put a dollar amount, like it's $100 trillion. But I kind of want to dive a little bit further into that, not specifically on the how much, but on the certain areas of the built environment where change can have the biggest impact on this. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, there's some like low-hanging fruit where the industry just needs to adopt some of these solutions, like energy, like HVAC upgrades, energy management, the amount of energy that's wasted within buildings. So we can definitely optimize buildings better. Now, again, I'm focused, and I need to focus more on existing building stock, because most of the new development projects, they will be net zero. To attract tenants, to get the rents that people want, they're going to do that. So HVAC, there's a lot that can be done on construction side, which on concrete and steel and mass timber. One day, hopefully 3D printed homes and structures and modular and prefab will be great. There's a lot on the geothermal. There's a lot. I mean, there's so many good tools out there. What I tell people is like, there's a wealth of information that's available in the marketplace where you could go and find out these solutions. There's great nonprofits out there. There's a great tool called the EC3 tool, which will tell you by material what the carbon impact is. ULI Greenprint has so much information out there. So just, maybe we'll make it available in the show notes. Like there's a wealth of resources out there. So the good news is there's a dozen, 2 dozen, if not more, off the shelf, ready to go solutions right now that'll bring down the energy consumption immediately. And two, on your construction projects that'll help you really make the best choices in terms of carbon impact by the materials that you use. So it's all there. I mean, it's water, it's air, it's glass, it's great advancements are being made on the tech front.
That's amazing.
I know in the Europe and European settings and stuff like that, the modular and prefab is a really big deal that's coming, where they're actually building apartment buildings in a modular system and taking them out and then just stacking them up. And I mean, you're talking, instead of it taking months, it's taking weeks for these apartments to, and I think like they were saying, like it's 30 right now, it's like 30% less energy is involved in building these buildings this way. That don't hold me to that, but that was one of the claims. It is actually less energy. It was only 30% right now, and this was a couple of years ago, so it might have even been better. But I think they're kind of leading that way, that charge. I don't know if you've looked into that.
Yeah, I've
there.
seen a lot about that, Jeff. Great
Yeah.
point, great illustration. There are so many advances being made in sort of modular construction, prefabricated materials and panels, building buildings quicker, more cost effective, less waste. Europe, I mean, if you want examples, go to Europe. The US, unfortunately, we are lagging. I believe that a lot of the innovation is going to come from here, but adoption, we are definitely lagging. It's in Europe, it's table stakes. You know, when I think about my conferences and what do people want to talk about in Europe, it's all they want to talk about is climate. The US, you know, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. And I'll just make one other point about the message to the audience. There's going to be a severe financial penalty to pay if you've got a brown building.
Yeah.
And you know, who's going to buy a brown building? They're going to have to be severely discounted, where green buildings will trade at a premium in the marketplace. There is zero doubt about that. So you're looking for ROI, you're sitting on, you know, a building that's 5, 10, 15, 20 years old, that's got all this outdated, you know, brown technology in it. Try flipping that building out in the marketplace in the very near term. You're not going to get it. You're not going to get the numbers that you think you're going to get. Whereas if if you've got a clean building, that's going to command a premium, because everybody's going to be looking for it on the occupancy side, on the residential side, on the retail side. And there is study after study after study about green buildings selling for a premium and commanding higher rents. And you know, tenants that, if you're an office tenant in the market today, I guarantee you, besides the location or the flexibility and the price, obviously, ESG is going to be right there, because that's what their employees want. And employees are driving all the you know, except for Tesla, maybe, are you know, have all the power today. So the numbers are there. We just got to get the message out, which you're helping me do, and let people see that there's a pathway here to a better real estate industry that's doing good for the environment, at the same time making good money, which is great.
Yeah, and that speaks to a variety of different people, because there's people out there that are driven to make a change through the morality of it and the fact that it's going to help the environment long term. But also, we're in a capitalistic society, so being able to incentivize as well on the sales side, and not only that, but the operational efficiencies that you improve go straight to the NOI. So it's one of those things where people that understand that would say, okay, well, this has got to be part of our strategy going forward, because it's not only good, you know, good for the environment and moral play, it's also good for business. So, you know, I'm glad we were able to kind of discuss this and give you an opportunity to kind of share your insights on that front. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Michael, did you have something you want to say?
No, I was just going to echo what you said, and that I couldn't agree more with what you just said. That's it. I'm not here to make the moral argument. By the way, if I wanted to make the moral argument in this climate, it's not going to work. So if my goal is just to impact and affect change, you know this, you guys know this industry better than I do. What's going to make change the fastest? Bottom line, money. And that's okay. We live, like you said, we live in a capitalist society. So
exactly. And you alluded to the fact of the slow adoption of technology. A big reason for that was because we didn't need to, right? From an industry standpoint, you were doing extremely well without it. And now that, you know, real estate's becoming a lot more institutionalized, that, it's starting to become a lot bigger as of a deal as far as improving your performance. I mean, that's where tech comes and supplements that. So it's one of those things where
the space well, man. You know the space well. That's right.
Yeah.
What I tell people, sorry, Raphael, I mean, you get me going on this topic and I can't stop. I'm sorry. But what I also know is that prop tech, it was kind of discretionary, the spending there, right? And I can't tell you how many founders I've met in my journey, tech founders who say, I don't come from this industry, but I'm going to disrupt this industry because it's so antiquated and I'm going to be bigger than Facebook. It's like hockey stick. And I'm like, okay, good luck. And then, it's 6 months, a year later, it's like deer in headlights. Like, I had no idea. I said, listen, don't talk about the industry as being antiquated. It's not. Yeah. Don't talk about the industry as being risk averse. It's not. Show me a more riskier industry than real estate, where an owner, a developer, an investor sees something before anybody else does and goes put big dollars on the line to go build a vision. You got to get entitlements. All of that, the construction costs. It is the riskiest industry. It just hasn't invested in innovation because it never had to. It's starting to now, which is great. Climate, because of all these external forces, they're converging. You have laws now in New York City, in Orlando, in Boston, in Washington, that are mandating net zero targets, decarbonization targets. You have lenders, you have insurance agencies. You're not getting money if you don't have a certain net zero decarbonization plan, or if you're in a flood or fire zone. It's real. The shit is real. What's coming to this industry and how it's going to impact companies people who own real estate.
Definitely. No, I couldn't agree more. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, we've talked about some of the needs and focal points of where the impact can be made. Can you kind of highlight maybe a few of the companies that you've seen, or, some of the technologies that you've seen that have really just made, got you excited about, a variety of different things?
Oh my gosh, now you're asking me to pick my favorite kid.
Mhm.
When I get asked that question, I'm always like, oh, geez, how am I going to get out of this one? I prefer not to mention companies just because there's so many great ones, and I will inevitably leave off names. I would just say that whether it's concrete or whether it's steel or whether it's glass or whether it's geothermal, whether it's smart building, energy efficiency, energy management, there's a plethora of great solutions on the market. I'm sorry to be so evasive.
No,
there's just so many. I wouldn't know where to start. I'll give, it's from Carbon Cure on the concrete side to Cove Tool on the data and information side, Measurable on the ESG reporting side. There's Turntide Motors, Dandelion on the geothermal. There's so many. I said I wasn't going to do it. I just did.
Well, and I think highlighting some of that. If you guys get a chance to go to these conferences, you definitely should. It's unbelievable the amount of technology and just connections you can develop and really, just get yourself aware of how the industry is going to change over time, because, being educated about these types of things is only going to help your career long term. So if you get an opportunity to go to one of these conferences, in particular one focused on climate, I think that would be a great feel. And again, I'm going to be going as well. So.
And just on that note, I'll give you one other data point for your audience. I think it was McKinsey who said there's going to be 500,000 jobs created in the decarbonization of the built environment. If I'm a kid that's graduating college or not graduating college like me, if I'm in the middle of my career and I'm looking for a transition, or if I'm looking for a new field to enter, I can't think of a better segment to enter than sustainability in the built environment. There's just so many opportunities that are going to be created. All these real estate companies, they need heads of sustainability managers. They all need the technology companies. They all need real estate people who understand how to market to real estate companies. The venture world, climate tech venture is one of the fastest growing segments. And in fact, even in this environment where, where the news, I don't want to make this thing too timely, but I think we're going to be here for a while, where the news about tech and venture is not positive right now. That's not the case with climate tech. Climate tech is up big time, big time. So, and it will be. So venture is another great career path.
Absolutely. So earlier you were speaking that you didn't want to argue over this climate change. Well, I just want to make one point. I don't want to get into argument too, but the one good thing about COVID is during that time, a lot of people, we were not going to work. So the traffic wasn't going on. All these industrial factories are shutting down. So they are turning their HVACs, practically off. I mean, and you are actually seeing healing of Mother Earth. I mean, like if you don't understand, like, okay, everything basically was shut down and turned off, and what was happening around us, like there was birds who weren't coming in to the coast, the southern coast of California, who are now migrating back because the smog was going away. Like that, to me, that the proof's in the pudding, so to speak, in me. So the CRE climate on all the technology, like I am for, and so I'm very curious where you see this going, and say in the next 5 to 10 years. Where do you see the technology going, and then what are your goals in the next 5 to 10 years to help?
Just a quick data point on your comment, though, and I respect your opinion and your views immensely. It's not challenging your views, because you're right about, during COVID, we definitely experienced a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, but then we rebounded pretty quickly. So 21 was a record year in history of greenhouse gas emissions. So the trending is not good. But you could see in that environment, listen, we did a conference recently in Copenhagen, and you go to Copenhagen and you could see the other extreme. There's no cars on the road. Everybody rides bikes. The air feels better. Quality of life feels better. Now, can we in the US replicate Copenhagen? There's no freaking way. Like, it's just not happening.
Yeah.
So what can we do? We can invest in these technology solutions to make the buildings more climate friendly, reduce their carbon footprint, big time.
Yeah.
For me, my focus is on technology. There's a shit ton of greenwashing that's going on. There is so much BS in the marketplace right now. Companies saying they're doing this and this and the other thing, and they're not. There's so much. Don't get me started on offsets. Important, but what I focus on is the technologies that we can put into these buildings that are existing, and then the way that we can renovate them in a way that's not emitting so much greenhouse gas emissions. So I'm all about the tech. I don't get into the moral. I don't get into the political. So the solutions are there. Invest in them, and you'll see an ROI immediate, and you'll be ahead of the curve, and you'll attract better tenants, better residents. So where do I see it going? I'm going to measure progress in a couple ways. I'm going to measure it by venture dollars going into the space. It's a barometer. It's important. So I think, what did I see? About $9 billion in venture funding globally going into climate tech, not just built world. So 9 billion, that's 50% year over year growth. I'm hoping that number just keeps going and growing and going. And then I'm looking for companies that are demonstrating investing in these solutions within their properties. So it's very quantifiable. It's very measurable. No pun intended with my friends at Measurable. So, that's where we're going. I just hope that, we every sort of benchmark, we can see progress, but we've got to be able to look past the bullshit, the greenwashing, the, the green flag waving, and just focus on investing and adoption. And I won't stop until they put me in the box. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. So
Yeah.
I'm going to keep screaming from mountaintops, and anybody that'll have me, I'm going to talk about it and keep pushing it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you identified some pretty important KPIs, where, I mean, again, this is the type of stuff that this is why these conversations are so important. And I know they're already happening at the highest levels in companies across the world. These large, institutions are starting to put a lot more effort into this direction. And so, we'll keep tracking the KPIs, and, like you said, hopefully the trend continues. And I think it will. I really do as well. And, I'm hopeful for, your endeavors in CREtech Climate as well. I know you guys are doing great work as far as the events are concerned, as you continue to spread the message and learn, to educate people about it, especially those in the decision-making chairs. I think that's really going to make a big impact. And again, it's just understanding the problem and then trying to get an idea of how you can possibly solve it. So,
well, thanks, Raphael. And I think, again, I mention this analogy all the time at nauseum. So apologize to anybody who's heard me talk about this before. My friend Sean Abramson of Third Sphere, great early stage venture fund, he makes the analogy about Tesla, right? So he said, why is Tesla the world's most valuable automobile company? In a very short period of time. Number one, is it because it's an EV? No, it has nothing to do with that. It's a better car. It's technologically superior of every other car. I have friends that live in the most energy inefficient homes, and they're driving a Tesla. Why? It's fast, it's cool, it's got all these cool gadgets, and oh, by the way, it's an EV. So that I have faith in technology will solve a lot of these problems. I'm thankful to have friends like you guys who are going to help me amplify the message. So I'm confident we'll get there. It's just going to be a lot of work. But again, let's just focus on the ROI, the KPIs, and I think we'll make some measurable progress. I hope so.
That's
My
awesome.
kids' futures are depending upon it as well as everybody else's.
And also, I mean, and this is one thing that I've learned early on, which has served me extremely well in my career, is incremental progress, it compounds. So even if you see, a 10% improvement year over year, 10% every single year, you look back after 10 years and you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe how far we've come. You just referenced the 50% increase in investment. If that continues, I mean, oh my gosh, I mean, even if it's incremental, even if it's 5% or 10%, we're still moving in a positive direction, which is all we can do and you can do really as a change agent. So again, thanks again for all the work you do, because I think it's going to be important in the years to come. So Michael, first off, thanks again for being our first repeat. Thanks again for being our first repeat guest. And I'm really glad we were able to.
After my rant, we're probably two and done. Which
no, absolutely not.
No,
you're going to be let me tell you, you're going to be a regular going forward, and especially as new things come down the line. I'm excited to have you back on and talk about these new topics and concepts. But one of the things we like to do near the end of the podcast is to talk about what's the most impactful book you've ever read, and it doesn't have to be real estate related. And I remember the book that you referenced last time. I don't know if it's still that book for you.
Oh my gosh, I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I should have friggin' prepared. I mean, I'm an avid reader, so I read so much. And I always try and read non-business books because I figure, and I love, and it's mostly nonfiction. So it's got something that touches me, inspires me, that I can have some takeaways, even though a lot of the books that I read, people have gone through just horrific experiences. Still, there's always nuggets. So I think I mentioned in the last one, the book that I continue to reference is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's just an extraordinary book about how in any circumstance you find yourself in life. And this one obviously references the worst, experience known to mankind, the Holocaust. You have a choice. You can't control the environment, but you control your thoughts, and that's really important. The other one, I'll get heavy on you if you want a spiritual one, is another great one I love. Is called Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It's a great one about controlling your thoughts and your mind, which I really love. Oh my goodness! And then I got one for you. This is one I'll give a little plug to my friend. It's going to be in reverse, but my friend Matt Ellis, the CEO of Measurable, just wrote a book called From Green to ESG: How Data-Driven Transparency Changed Real Estate for Good. It's a great read. It's a sort of a 101 for anybody in real estate looking to learn about ESG and sustainability. So from the really dark days in humanity to something spiritual with Michael Singer to ESG from Matt Ellis, CEO of Measurable. How's that?
Right.
You're welcome, Matt, if you're listening.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, and you mentioned the Man Search for Meaning. I know we had that conversation about it. I mean, really in anything you do, your thoughts are what allow you to operate within any type of environment. Even if there's extreme negative stimuli on you, you have the choice to make a decision on where you want to go and how you want to respond to those negative stimuli. So I couldn't agree more with you on that book. And then I will be trying.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and I reference. I'll definitely be reading that book on that your friend has.
I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, I read so much. I mean,
when are you gonna write? When are you gonna write a book?
Oh,
that's
no,
another thing. You should. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do, Michael. I'm telling you.
I got two more. I'm in my library that I'll reference. One, a great book, hugely influential. Another spiritual book. One of the most important reads of my life, The Tao of Bill Murray.
That's awesome.
This was a great book. A great book. I mean, I got a lot of stuff on the Dalai Lama, but for me, Bill Murray's my Dalai Lama. No disrespect to the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
Hence that guy.
Yeah. And for those of you guys who listen to this,
they can't see.
Yeah, they have. He has a portrait of Bill Murray in the background, and we were talking it up before the podcast episode that it was, Bill Murray's just awesome. He's such a cool individual. I would love to have a beer. Like, that's one of the people I'd love to sit down and have a beer.
That's a great question, guys, that you should ask at the end of every podcast. Now, in my case, it won't be a beer.
Yeah,
it'll be a tequila.
Oh, nice.
I'm a very loyal tequila drinker. I just drink tequila. So I think your question should be, if anybody in history, dead or alive, if you could share a cocktail with, or a cup of coffee, it doesn't have to be booze, who would it be? I'll ask you guys. All right, Raphael, what say you?
That's a tough question. I mean, there's just so many people that are so inspirational. I mean, I read a lot of biographies, and so I probably would sit down with Abraham Lincoln, to be quite honest with you.
That's
I would probably love to pick his brain, because I mean, the amount of stress and the whole country was resting on his shoulders, and he had to keep it all together, and he was able to make it through that crisis, and then ultimately met his fate at the end. I mean, it's just it's an inspirational story, but also, I would love to pick his brain to get a feel for how he was able to make decisions under such duress, because at the time, it seemed like they had the most resources and were able to make quick work of this. But as things started to deteriorate, and him not having experience as a wartime leader, I mean, how do you essentially swing the tide? And obviously, that's extreme leadership at that point. So
I love that one. That's a great analogy. I mean, a great description as to why. That's brilliant. Jeff, what say you? I'm turning the tables on you guys.
Yeah, you definitely did. That's a tough one. I thought of two. In Christianity, Jesus, for me, I would like to talk to him and be like, hey, you have all the answers here. Like, I got a lot of questions, so you have a moment. Let's break some bread and drink a little bit of wine here. So let's do this. There'd be a lot of questions, and I think that would be, because he was a leader of his time. So that's kind of where I went at first. If you want to do it closer to our in the last couple 100 years, I guess, or a little more, right now, I would love to sit down with Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Because just his forethought of how he's looking at investing all of his money, but he's trying to better the world in so many ways, especially with his foundation. And so that's why I would want to sit down and just see his path. Like, where do you see it going? And so
Yeah,
those are mine. So it'd be
Great.
hard to, depends on the
From
time.
Jesus to Bill Gates, man. That's
Yeah. Well, it's two totally different directions, but
I
it's
love it.
different
That's
times.
creative. That's how I can see how your mind works. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
So, but anyway, so speaking of that, I like the turn to the sides. I like it. Let's turn it right back around. Again, we want to thank you for coming back on.
Thanks, guys.
We really appreciate you taking the time and enlightening us with the CRE climate tech. So we have a CRE treasure chest, which is a repository of things that people like to post. And I know you've done this before. So our ask today is, what are you willing to contribute to the treasure chest today?
Wow. My gosh. I mean, what could I contribute? I'm gonna throw it back at you. Give me an example of something that was put in the treasure chest that you guys found of great value, so I could copy it.
nice. Well, it depends on the person, I would say, because we've got,
Yeah.
you know,
Give me
helpful
some good nuggets, because you've done so many
Yeah.
shows,
Oh,
so
yeah.
many episodes. Give me a couple that really stood out. So
For me, right on this episode, for me, I think anything to do that you think will have the biggest impact for the CRE climate. I like, even if it's like, hey, you go here and this is a list of all the websites of all the tech that you can utilize for your building or your, there has to be a list.
I'm sighing because I have to build that, Jeff. So
Okay,
you're
well,
giving me a big homework assignment for the treasure chest. I'm gonna build it. I will build it. I would say the EC3 tool that
There you go.
Stacy Smedley put out is a wonderful, wonderful resource. I'd say utilize Greenprint is a great one as well. Great resource for all things climate. And I think that book that I mentioned, From Green to ESG by Matt Ellis, CEO of Measurable, is a great resource for everybody.
So shoot that over to us, all those
Yeah.
three things
Those
on
links.
a sheet, and we'll plug that in, and hopefully.
Thanks,
you know,
guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. And maybe maybe the Tao of Bill Murray. I'm kidding.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I mean, I'm adding it to the list. I got 3 Audible credits, so you better believe one of those will belong to Bill Murray. That's awesome.
My God.
That's awesome. Well, again, Michael, we greatly appreciate your time as always. We know you're
Thanks,
extremely
guys.
busy.
I'm a big fan.
And you're really
Keep up the
working.
good work.
Oh,
I'm a big
absolutely.
fan of the podcast and all the work that you're doing. You know, you're providing a great, valuable resource for the industry. And I just wish that more people would sort of follow your lead so we could build this sort of ecosystem of helping, giving back, providing resources, because, you know, it's a very challenging environment, both economically and climate and financially in the markets today. And, you know, change is constant, and you guys are just a breath of fresh air in what you're doing to help educate what you're doing with the Academy, educate the industry to get better, to improve, to innovate. And I love what you're doing. So it's, it's an honor to be back on.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
We
And I think as time progresses, you know, people consume content in different ways. And over the last decade or so, you know, digital content and audio content has become a lot more prevalent. So, you know, we hope to be that resource for individuals going forward. And as more and more people continue to consume content in those formats, I think it's only going to expand the number of different channels and podcasts, and really watering holes, as we alluded to earlier, you know, that could potentially provide some insight.
Watering
So
holes.
we're hoping
Love that.
we're hoping to be at least a piece of that. So
You're doing great work, guys. Thanks again for having
We
me.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it. I enjoyed the chat.
Oh, for sure. So if people wanted to learn more about, you know, what you guys are doing or get in contact in some capacity, how would they best do that?
Just follow me on LinkedIn, Michael Beckerman. You could subscribe to our free newsletters at CREtech.com and CREtechClimate.com. It's all there. So whether they want to attend a conference or just get daily news curated on different real estate innovation tech topics. If anybody on this show is listening, wants to connect with me personally, just send me an email, michael@CREtech.com. And I'm always trying to be responsive and helpful, whether you're looking for a job or you're looking for a tech solution. I'm here to help. That's awesome. That's how I roll.
Perfect.
Yeah,
that's how I roll.
And I will encourage you guys to do so if you guys fall in those camps, because Michael is just a wealth of knowledge and he is very responsive, and I would highly encourage you guys to do that. So again, Michael, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
If you guys are listening to this in a podcast format, we would greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review. It makes a huge impact, and we've seen a significant uptick in our downloads as a result of you guys doing so. If you guys are watching this in a YouTube format, whether that's if you guys are watching this on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message. So thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.